All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Real Property Report Live. My name is Monica Jazik. I'm the founder of Real Property Investments, and where we help real people build real wealth through real estate and alternative investments. So the purpose of the Real Property Report Live is to bring you a live update every Saturday, summarizing updates with COVID-19 throughout the globe. US, Canada, Ontario, you name it, we're covering it. And we have a wonderful panel of experts to come on and offer their insights on issues that have developed over the past week. So this week we have Danielle Connolly, who is our Hamilton real estate agent and specialist. Her camera's about to come live just now. We have
Hi, everybody.
Richard. She's here.
I'm here.
We have Richard Bryson of PMB Property Management. He's our real property management specialist. Say hi, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
And we have Matt Hansberger, owner and broker of Royal Atlantic. And he covers New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. So he's all the way from the Maritimes. Hi, Matt.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on the live today. I can't thank you enough for coming on. We have had another huge week, in developments in regards to this COVID-19. I don't even know what real property report we are on right now. We have had so many of these. And last week was actually pretty positive. We were talking about some great news about some things that have been opening up, some developments that are happening. And unfortunately, I'm going to give you a heads up right now. We are not looking so great this week. I'm sad to report, but this is news and facts, and nothing's, there's no fiction here. This is stuff that we actually got from the World Health Organization and actual events happening, in our economy. So unfortunately, there has been a global spike in coronavirus cases. The World Health Organization reported the highest number of COVID-19 cases recorded in 24 hours on Wednesday. And Mexico reported 424 deaths in just 24 hours. It was its highest one-day jump in fatalities. Brazil recorded nearly 20,000 cases within 24 hours. It was its highest one-day spike. And Peru reported more than 4,500 new infections, pushing the national total past 100,000 cases. Jordan, in the Arab country, is imposing a 3-day nationwide curfew after rises in local cases have occurred after they started easing up on the lockdown measures. And now all the warnings that we're talking about here are on a possible second wave. So a lot of these places all over the world, as we eased up on our lockdowns, and this is what we discussed last week, how things were slowly starting to ease up. Now there are talks about this possible second wave coming, which is really, really concerning. So now the global reach is 5 million confirmed cases as of this Thursday. And the director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says they cannot guarantee whether a second round of lockdowns is going to come as a possible second wave of this virus looms. So in the U.S., they have reported more than 23,000 new cases, which is amazing. We had a U.S. specialist on last week talking, about how they were easing up things all throughout different parts of the country. Canada is also recording additional new cases on the virus. This Tuesday, Alberta announced 33 new cases of COVID-19. British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, they all have just slightly single-digit increases, but these were from some places where we had no reports the weeks prior. And unfortunately, Ontario reported 390 new cases on Wednesday. Our province's total is now 23,774 cases, and our death toll has risen to 1,962. 43 more deaths were reported this week alone. Also, a huge announcement in Ontario was that our schools are officially not opening this school year. So school is out for summer. Yay, said no one ever. And, you know, they're saying it's just the disease, the transmission of this disease is just too much in these school environments. I know other parts of the world, they actually reopened their schools and then they had to end their schooling sessions. This happened in Australia because it came back in the second wave that we're kind of talking about today. And the same, unfortunately, for parents of young kids like Danielle here, daycares are also not opening. There's just too many questions and too many unknowns. Now, I will end it. I'm sorry for this negative message. I wish I had more positive news, but I do have to report on one last thing before we get going. And it really is the president of the Canadian Medical Association in Canada really is saying our country is not prepared for a possible second wave of the COVID-19. It's saying that our physicians are at risk of having fatigue breakdown. Their care workers are being overworked, and the personal protective equipment, the shortages that are still insisting pose a huge risk for our people. And actually, I'm going to leave with this quote: "We cannot consider ourselves civilized if we continue this way." I know that Ford is saying he wants to do up to 16,000 or 60,000 tests a day. And the actual consensus really is that only 7,000 tests are technically being done per day. If we don't continue to test, and there's so many unknowns about how the disease is being passed on through the asymptomatic approach, then that's the real problem that we're having here. And that's why the schools and all these environments are shutting down, is because they still don't have a great idea of how everything's spreading. So unfortunately, this impacts our economy, this impacts the real estate market, and this is really kind of what we're sort of drawing attention to and trying to keep you informed about, is how these latest developments, how this possible second wave, you know, can affect you as a person who lives in the world, as this is a global affair. We have people from all over the world that are actually tuning in to the Real Property Report. And we hope we did cover your area. This impacts everyone. And we kind of want to put this into context more in regards to real estate and investments, and from an economical standpoint. So we're going to start our first question of our panelists for Richard. Don't mind, Richard. You manage over 400 doors as a property manager in Barrie and the Simcoe area. You have been with our team for years, and you've been with us since the start of this pandemic. Huge source of information. What have been the trends that you've seen in tenants paying rent now that we're heading into month 3 of this pandemic? How have things changed in the world of property management since COVID-19?
Well, Monica, if we're looking at paying rent trends, of course, everybody was a little nervous and scared of what would happen on the first month. If I speak about our tenants, they've communicated with us, and we've communicated with them, open door policy. And, you know, we collected all but 3 rents. So it's some of the rents were a little slow to come in, but we worked with our tenants and they communicated with us. And again, we are still stuck right now, May 23rd. We only have 3 defective, as I call it, tenants paying rent.
Out of over 400 units, that's pretty good.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and 2 of those were already on Section 78, so they were processed. They could have been in process of being evicted, and we just added a new one.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what other management companies are like. I don't know what other people are facing, but I know that on our end here, perhaps it's the open line of communication with my staff and the tenants and the landlords. But we're still status quo. We're still moving forward. We're still operating. We're still tenants could reach us. So.
And are tenants still moving around? Have you moved any new sort of tenants in?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We actually have, one of the biggest things that's helping us, I believe, is going digital. DocuSigns for everything that we actually do. Management agreements for landlords, DocuSign. Lease agreements, DocuSigns. Everything is DocuSign, and it's I believe it's helping us and the tenants and the future tenants to to streamline what they're trying to move into a new unit. But and I think one of the trends that back tenants know they don't have to move to Ontario.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think things some things might change as we are going more electronically, more distance. I know property management is very, very hands-on, and it's amazing you can outsource lease agreements, you can outsource those sort of things, doing things digitally to minimize the contract. What about the actual moving in and moving out policies and actually showing the units? Are there certain, because I know you are an essential service, so are there a lot of restrictions that you've been given for that?
Well, we've imposed our restrictions with tenants that are looking at moving out. So, in other words, we have to respect people's wishes. So, meaning that move-out inspections have changed. So the tenant moves out, then we do an inspection, and our tenants are again, they're 99% double AAA. Showing units is almost virtual, similar as selling homes. So we're with going with DocuSigns. I think we're still signing average one lease per week.
Right. Right. Yeah, I noticed things still are moving in Ontario, at least I know in our markets. And I've been talking to other agents like that and agents in other places across Canada and the US, and things are still going differently, but they're definitely still going. Richard, I know that we had our fingers crossed for April 1st. I remember we had you first on in March. We were worried about what's going to happen April 1st. Everything kind of seemed fine. Then May 1st came along, everything's fine. Do you think if this so-called second wave hits, maybe it won't be in June, but maybe if it's in July, August, we're still in this in September. Do you think things will be as rosy? I know we don't have a crystal ball and can't predict anything, but
we can only hope. And I think that during our application process, when we're reviewing applications, when we've rented to tenants, I mean, perhaps it's how we're screening, or perhaps it's the type of tenants we're screening, but I truly hope that is going to continue in a positive trend for our portfolio and our tenants and our landlords. Will it get worse? Maybe. Will it get better? I hope so.
Do you have any sort of contingency plans in the background set up, anticipating sort of plan A or B, or what you can kind of sort of do? Is it just, even though our courts are going to be backed up 18 months, just keep serving, keep sort of filing? I know communication's key, but for the tenants who are not cooperating, are you advising to serve your N4s? And
we are. We N4s, N8s. We're filing. We use the services of John Kramer. So we direct John to file with the LTB, the 2 sections that we have. File them with the LTB. Let's not wait. It's business as usual, and the tenants need to understand that. But however, if there's an issue, they understand that they will work with them regarding perhaps a payment plan. In other words, when their CERB comes in, yeah, business as usual. Notices are being served. And the digitizing everything that we're working on is I think helping our cause.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for keeping us posted and connecting with us. I know you have a tremendous job of managing multiple doors, and it seems that, you've set yourself up so things are happening seamless now, and I can only imagine what is to come. Hopefully nothing. Hopefully we get through this and everything goes back to normal business as usual. But it's great to know, as someone who invests in real estate, that we do have professionals that are actively managing properties and able to take care of these things, even in a pandemic situation. So
Yes.
I bet you can't wait till this is over.
No, I look forward to it. I think the mental stress will decrease. You know what, Monica? Other things that we're working on through we're giving owner apps for directly into our rent collection bookkeeping systems for all our landlords, so they can go into the back door. There's a portal there for them, so they have a hands-on, real-time view on what's happening with their properties.
Mhm.
Online application, online maintenance tracker, mobile insurance tracker. So we're making. I think it's a. Not happy about this COVID-19. However, it's pushed us to the next level of servicing our clients.
I agree totally. I feel the same way. No one's happy about it, but you have a choice. You could either, be upset about it and do nothing, or you can kind of use it to, get to the next level, so you can and prepare yourself to get through it. I think, Richard, what you're doing actually by having all of this real-time information available for people is you're providing certainty to them in a time of uncertainty. And you're showing them that you're active, you are on this, and you are, doing as much as you can and managing their cause. So I think that's amazing. So thank you. Thanks so much for that update. We're going to move actually on to Danielle, who just dropped her camera. She's so excited to be on again. How are you, Danielle?
I'm good. It's been a busy couple days for me in the market. I think I was up till midnight last night writing offers. I was out first thing this morning. As soon as we're done here, I'm back out. I'm in competition on everything. Things I see go on the market are lasting about a day. So things are back to normal for me. And plus, I think it's busier right now than it would be in a typical spring market.
Well, you're in Hamilton, and this is one of the hottest markets in Ontario. And economists, even though you're giving us this, economists are still predicting a price drop in all real estate markets. So why do you think right now it's still so hot? Or do you think this price drop's going to happen? Or do you think it's just sort of a doom or gloom prediction?
Single family homes, people still need to move. People still need to downsize, upsize. The people I'm working with right now, first time home buyers, they don't want to rent anymore. They want to purchase. A lot of people are essential services, like a couple I was out with today, they're both still working. A couple last night, she's a nurse. She's getting more hours than ever. Not everyone's being affected by COVID. So a lot of people are getting more hours than they've ever had before. At least I still have people wanting to move. My biggest issue that I'm having right now is I have a few that are like multifamily. I'm having a hard time moving those. There's not that many investors out there because the investors are waiting for the price to drop. But
Right.
I don't see it happening right now. Like I see it holding strong. And I see rents going up because the market's so hot right now. So you mean like I would love to buy some stuff myself. Like I anticipated, I've been telling people wait till August if you're looking to buy an investment because they're the dog days of summer and it's going to be slow. But right now it's insane. Like I was in competition on 7 offers the other day, 20 offers the day before. Things are moving. So the prices might be even higher by the time we get to August.
That's amazing, because a lot of people, like I say, they're predicting, we have a second wave. People are going to feel the pinch. People might lose their homes as things go on. Do you think this might, if that does happen, is that going to increase to more? Do you think more things are going to go on the market? It sounds like it's really sort of a seller's market right now because the inventory, really, there isn't too much available. Are you expecting a lot more to come on with the spring market?
So I'm expecting that once COVID-19 is done, everyone will list at the same time. So right now, everyone's too scared to list. So it is a seller's market because no one's on the market. As soon as COVID-19 is done, I think we're going to see a flood of listings and we will switch to a buyer's market. I think everyone's just waiting till things calm down. But if you're saying we're going to get a second wave, things might not calm down until, I don't know, maybe next spring.
So what about if you're, as a realtor in the Hamilton area, I know that you service end users, you're also a very heavy investors agent. Would you say that these multiple offers are driving up the prices too high, almost to the point that,
No.
you know, the people could be at risk, you know, if there is a drop in the market?
No, we're not seeing prices go over like we used to. We're not seeing $100,000 over on asking. You mean I had a detached 2,200 square foot home. It was listed for $619. It sold for $650. You mean they're not dramatic? They're not dramatic prices over like we used to see, like 100 or 200,000 over. They're still within reason. And the banks have been really pushing back too, where we're not getting appraisals for big high amounts either. So I think people are still being conservative with the prices. We haven't seen a huge price jump this year. Like I think maybe we've seen 5% or so, but it would be a typical year. But we're not seeing the ridiculous offers like 2016 when people were going 100 or 200 over ask. We're not seeing that right now.
So how are people mainly staying competitive then in this multiple offer situation? Is it just more with their conditions then, if it's not with overpaying for prices?
Yeah, conditions. I'm almost seeing everyone with conditions right now. Very rarely do I see a deal going in firm. Everyone has a financing clause because even if you have them pre-approved,
they must, because
things are changing always. So everyone has to go, unless you're paying actual cash, you have to have a financing clause. But other than that, everything else is the same. Like it's busier than ever right now. So I hear that, you mean we're getting the second waves, but my question is, like, all of these countries that are claiming that they have these big spikes, are they getting these big spikes because they're finally getting the testing equipment? Like, you got to kind of ask, did they have the test strips? Did they have, like, we saw spikes back at the end of March because we only started getting the test strips because we were behind. We didn't have enough machines to be able to test people and stuff. So are the numbers going up because people are finally able to get tested? Even in the US, the numbers are going up because when this all started, Pink was a great example. She's famous. Her and her son had COVID-19. She could only get one test strip for herself. I mean, and she's famous and she could only get one test strip. So you're thinking, we got to think, are these numbers going up because people can finally get tested? So I don't want to say that it's, I don't want to say that it might be slightly inflated. Yes, we have a major issue, but I think people are kind of over it. They're kind of saying, you know what, we've seen people, what happens, what goes on, and people are saying, you know what, if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. But we're not going to let this control our lives. Now, I think if people that have health conditions are saying, yeah, you know what, let's stay inside. Like my dad has diabetes, he's taking it very serious. But I'm finding, at least the people that I'm dealing with, if you're young and healthy, they're saying, you know what, we're going to be very careful. We're going to wear masks. We're going to wear gloves. We're going to wash our hands. But we're not going to let this control our life.
Yeah. And I do hear a lot of people saying that, and that's great. We have to take these active measures and stuff. And I think you're right. Maybe certain parts of the world, they're not getting the testing as much, or they're just starting to put the testing in more so. The only problem that they're saying with Ontario, especially here, is that we're not even doing the adequate amount of tests. We're supposed to be doing up to 60,000 tests a day, because the more people are tested, then they can get treated, and they can also it's also the asymptomatic as well issue. So how is this? There's a lot of mystery in this disease. I know people will come out with their emotions and with their opinions in regards to this can't control my life, or I'm not going to do this or that. Personally, what I honestly think is we should all be wearing gloves and masks when we go out. And I know you probably do that when you're showing homes. I know, Richard, you do that, you know, with your property management. And Matt, I'm pretty sure you wear that as well. I think everyone should do it. I don't go out personally. I'm a hobbit now. I'm stuck in my room doing the Real Property Report, it seems. No, and I feel like I haven't been out in ages. And if I did, I would make an effort to wear that, because there is a lot of, we don't know. And when we bring you these reports, like we say, it's just the news, and it's not based on media hype or speculation. It's based on facts from the World Health Organization and our country's leaders. So I agree with you, Danielle. It is frustrating. There could be a lot of skewed results, and we have no idea where it's going. And also, that's really important to everyone watching to really take all this information as a grain of salt, remove your emotion from it. And we don't know if the sky is falling, or if this is the beginning of some new opportunity, or maybe things will just stay the same. All we could do is really be prepared. But from what you're saying, Danielle, I really think it's a strong message to people of, hey, anyone listening, if you guys were thinking of listing your homes and selling your homes, the prices at this time are not going down. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but as of today, multiple offers still are well in play, and I think people are still putting in those strong offers. So if you want to sell now, it doesn't mean that you're selling at a loss. And this has been in all our markets. We're in multiple markets. I noticed, Matt, I can't wait to get to you and hear what's happening in the Maritimes. But in Ontario, I know that, you know, all of our markets still, Danielle, are doing the similar reports, taking the multiple offers. They used to be no conditions in a lot of these, and now they definitely are putting in the conditions. And good for you, because you do need conditions during these uncertain times as well. But I definitely think that there is still no reason to stop going ahead, stop investing, as long as you have a great agent, you know, that's able to guide you through these unprecedented times, and a great team that can show you kind of how to do it the right way, for sure. So Danielle, I hope you stay as busy. And I hope this continues into the spring. And I'm sure that you'll be just as busy if things do change and everyone kind of starts listing their properties as well. Because as an investor, I know you know the importance of being able to operate in any environment.
Mm-hmm.
So like Richard, you kind of seem to really up the ante, lift the game, just kind of conform, pivot, move along with it, and not let it stop you.
That's all we need to do.
That's all we can do, really.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for that. Matt, as I introduced you earlier, for anyone who's just recently tuning in, he is actually coming all the way from the Maritimes. He's in Nova Scotia, and he's the owner of the Royal LePage Atlantic, which covers Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Matt, Nova Scotia recorded a slight increase in COVID-19 cases after having no reports for about a week. What impact has COVID-19 had on the real estate market in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick? And what do you think a second wave of COVID-19 could mean for the Maritimes?
So I'll speak differently about the two provinces. New Brunswick has managed the COVID first wave here very well. I think they peaked at about 120 cases, and there were no deaths in New Brunswick. Nova Scotia has not fared quite as well. There's been over 1,000 cases in Nova Scotia. We've had, I think we're up to in the mid 50s, maybe even high 50s in terms of deaths. 90% of the deaths in Nova Scotia have been focused in one long-term care facility. So it's in downtown Halifax. It's a facility called Northwood Facility, and unfortunately, that facility it's a huge long-term healthcare facility. And you know, I'll make a personal commentary that I just don't think that they got on top of it as quickly as they needed to get on top of it. Mm-hmm. Halifax specifically has been the center of almost all of the cases in Nova Scotia. And there's a couple of key differences between the two provinces. New Brunswick is a province that has three main centers: Fredericton, Moncton, and St. John, all of which have about the same population. Fredericton's actually a little smaller, but they're about an hour apart from each other. And Halifax has Nova Scotia has one main hub, and that's Halifax. About half the population of the province is in the city of Halifax, Dartmouth, and the greater Halifax area. And so, you know, when you look at the cases and the spike that we've seen in the first round of this thing, population density is such a huge part of the story that it's very difficult to control a densely populated area from seeing community spread. In New Brunswick, they very quickly moved to lock things down and were able to control the spread, and did a very good job with it. So the result of that for the real estate market has been that New Brunswick for us has been about 2 weeks ahead of Nova Scotia on the way in and on the way out. So we closed all of our offices on March 19th. We have 12 offices across the 2 provinces. We sent our staff home. We told all the agents that you're working from home now for the foreseeable future. And neither province actually declared real estate an essential service, but they didn't declare it ordered to be shut either. So we kind of followed the Ontario lead, and Ontario did declare it an essential service. We just sort of said, yeah, well, if that's the case, then we'll allow it to kind of continue. Immediately put some measures in place to make sure that everyone was doing their showings carefully, safely, within all of the health measures as well. And really quickly, as an organization, we prioritized 3 things. We said the first and most important thing is all of our folks' health and the community health. The second is our obligation to people who are out there buying and selling homes right now, some of whom would be homeless without us. And then the third is obviously the economic reality for the agents themselves, and they're small business people as well. So in New Brunswick, we saw a dip of about 60% in terms of the volumes of trades happening. So we saw about 60% reduction in sales, and a little more than that in terms of the number of new listings coming on the market as compared to 2019 during about let's call it April 1st through May 1st block. In Nova Scotia, we saw a slightly higher drop in new listings coming to market, but a slightly lower drop in terms of number of sales happening. So we were probably at around 55% drop in terms of number of sales in Nova Scotia, and about 65% in terms of number of new listings. So just to give you some context, in Nova Scotia, in the run of the month of May last year, 2019, the entire province would only put on about 2,600 listings. In 2020, it appears that we're going to come in around the 1,100 or 1,200 mark for the month of May. So, we've really seen a haircut there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you see restrictions loosening, so New Brunswick started loosening restrictions about 2.5 weeks ago, and we saw an uptick in both of the markets we're in. We're in St. John and Moncton, and we very quickly saw the number of listings basically double overnight that were coming on every day, but not back to 2019 levels. And in Nova Scotia, we've really only seen it for the last, I'd say, 4 days since the long weekend. This past week, we've seen a big uptick in the number of listings. So it's basically doubled from the first week of May to the end of May. The number of listings that we've seen come on the market has basically doubled. So inventory is coming back as well. We are firmly entrenched in what I would describe as a seller's market here. Everything that Danielle just described about her market is true in Nova Scotia as well. New Brunswick is a little less so. But the buyers have come back before the sellers. There's no doubt about that. To what I would describe as between a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio. So, for all of our agents, as I'm talking to them, they're working with 12 buyers and 6 sellers right now. So that will eventually create a significant inventory problem for us if we don't go out and solve that problem. We need inventory to come back to the market. We were already in the seller's market going into this, and even though there's less trades going through, the ratios are still the same, if not getting worse, towards putting more pressure on inventory. I think that the report that I read from CMHC about a 10 to 15% drop in house prices across the country this year is one of the worst written reports I've ever seen. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's there has been so much liquidity put into the banking system and the mortgage system by the federal government. I don't believe that we're going to have a foreclosure problem. I believe that for the next 40 years, we're going to have a national debt problem. But I don't believe that there's going to be a whole bunch of foreclosures. And if I were an investor in investment properties, which I am, I have another company with a partner of mine where we're in the middle of building 80 townhouses that are rentals. We would look to things like what Richard just described in terms of informing whether or not we think prices are going to come down on investment properties. If you're still collecting 397 out of 400 rents, that is a good average right? We bake in about a 5% vacancy or delinquency rate anyway into any project that we're doing. And so if you're collecting that many rents in the light of what we're dealing with right now, I think you're going to be a little disappointed if you're waiting for rental property prices to come down. As we put out rentals on the market, duplexes, triplexes, we see them going in an hour, not a month. So it has been the whole market's been slowed down, but the ratio is basically the same. We're still in a seller's market. We're still seeing lots of activity every time we list a property. Just what Danielle described is true. 6, 7 offers on the property. 15 showings the first day, that kind of thing. So that's about the summary for at least the 2 provinces in Atlantic Canada that I'm in.
That was a fantastic summary. I love that. And I love how you kind of are challenging some of these reports and, some of these statistics. And it's not to be controversial. It's because we're all professionals who are live, breathe, and work in this industry. And, none of us have a crystal ball. None of us know what is going to happen, but we've all been able to work through it and move forward. Because that's our job, really, right? Our job
Absolutely.
is to identify the situation and what we're dealing with now and inform and educate people on how they can move forward and, work their way through it. Because we all live, breathe real estate, all of us. A lot of other people have these concerns, and they're getting this information from CMHC. They're getting this information from the National Post. Well, the last time I checked, the National Post sells newspapers, not real estate. And so, they hear the sky is falling headlines and they get a lot of uncertainty. And when you're uncertain, you don't make good choices. So get these reports, unskewed, unbiased reports from professionals who are reporting on what they actually are living and breathing. I think that's valuable. I want to touch on one thing quickly before we go, and this is for you, Matt.
Sure.
As a business owner of a lot of agencies, I kind of find it interesting how real estate really was not deemed an essential service or mandatory service in the Maritimes. And how much uncertainty did you feel? And that's a lot of responsibility and pressure for you as a leader and business owner to kind of, react. So how supported did you feel, during this time?
It's been challenging navigating our way through the regulations that the provincial governments have been putting on. I'm super fortunate that I have access to some folks in politics, and I'm able to kind of have the discussion in a frank way rather than just getting the public approach that they have to take. When you look at what the politicians have to do, whether they're provincial or federal, they have to respond with the humanitarian crisis first, right? And but in the back of their mind, just like everyone on this panel, that there's an economic reality that they also have to face. So, for example, I was the president of the Association of Realtors just as we entered into COVID here. The year ends at the beginning of April. So I was the president of the Provincial Association of Realtors. Our political affairs committee immediately went to work when the wage subsidy was announced, the 75% wage subsidy was announced, and started arguing that the cost accounting method wasn't going to work for us. We write deals in March that close in June. And so, really the real estate industry, even though the whole world shut down in March, was still seeing revenue through the end of March and into April. And we knew that the pain was going to come in May, June, and July. And so, the wage subsidy ending at the 6th of June was going to be a problem for us because we just simply wouldn't see a drop in revenue then. But then we would see like a 60 or 70% drop in revenue for the next 3 months after the wage subsidy was already gone. So, the change to the accrual method was something that I know not only our province, but I'm on a couple of committees at the Canadian Real Estate Association as well. The Canadian Real Estate Association, which represents 135,000 members, is a pretty decent lobby group, and went to the federal government and said, "Hey, listen, you've got to approach this a little bit differently." And it's a little bit of a moot point now that it's been extended to the end of August, because you could choose whichever method you want in real estate and still be able to take advantage of that particular subsidy. But super super helpful to be able to influence that discussion as well. We basically planned for the absolute worst case scenario we could think of, which was about a 90% drop in revenues. Right. I'm very thankful that we've fared even better than the market has. So despite the fact that our markets have dropped by about 60%, our business itself has only dropped by about 40% in terms of revenue, which is great. We unfortunately had to temporarily lay off a bunch of staff members, and I'm thankful that this past week we were able to bring back about 40% of them and start them back on the path of working with us again. Over the next 2 weeks, we really anticipate that we'll be fully back with all of our staff working in our offices. Our agents will be coming in and out. It'll be different. We're not having big sales meetings in the office anymore. We're not having all the events that we do, all those kinds of things, but nonetheless, it's going to be there. It was definitely a scary time. I was excited that our team responded very well, and even those who've been laid off have been super appreciative of the size of the problem that we were dealing with. And that's why I say, when you look at the amount of money that's been pumped into this thing from the federal government, we laid off 28 people. And those 28 people are for the most part homeowners. For the most part are living, let's call it paycheck to paycheck. They've been able to survive because they've received the CERB payment. Those who have kids just got a bigger child benefit paid to them. Some of them, in different positions, we employ some folks who are students. They got a benefit for being enrolled as a student. So I hate to say it, but one of the problems we might have with a couple of them is that they might actually be making more money during this time than they were prior to being laid off. And so we might have a tough time getting them back early. But, at the end of the day, that's exactly what the response should have been here. There's some long-term implications to that. But, as a business owner, I'm concerned about markets. I'm concerned about whether or not home ownership is sustainable. I'm concerned about whether or not consumer confidence has been crushed. And I just don't believe that that's going to be a long-term concern. I think it's all going to come back to okay. Even if we have a second wave, I didn't really answer your last question about the second wave. The second wave to me is something that I think the world is now expecting as a reality. I don't believe we're going to see it as sort of steep as this first wave was, but it is a reality. And I think that, as long as we manage it well from a healthcare perspective and we manage it well societally, I think that we're going to be able to deal with that in Canada anyway. Again, if I were, a politician in Zimbabwe or Brazil or anything like that, I have some other problems that I have to think about with respect to our infrastructure, but Canada is, despite the warnings from our chief medical officer, I think pretty well set up to at least cope with the problem as we go through it.
Well, I hope so. And I love that information. I hope it helps put it in perspective for people out there. You're all professionals in this industry. And I think it's all, as influencers, it's our duty to give people this real information and to not put people in a state of panic, but in a state of, more empowerment, that people at this point, we do have choices and we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly what is to come and what's to happen, but there are options. So by tuning in, I hope you enjoyed and got some real information. Thank you, everyone, for coming on the Real Property Report. I appreciate your time and your contribution. You are all amazing individuals and outstanding. We're honored and privileged to be working with all of you. So that's great. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all copies of the Real Property Report on our Real Property Report playlist and our actually COVID-19 playlist. We do have events every month, but we're also dedicating some free channels and webinars and information to help you stay informed, stay current, and stay empowered. So thanks again, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget to visit us at rpinvestments.ca. Check out our YouTube channel and make sure to hit subscribe. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Monica.
everybody.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
Have a
See you
great
later.
weekend.
Bye-bye.